Welcome back to The Explainer. So, in our last analysis, we took a deep dive into NTU. Today, we're turning our attention to another giant, National Chengchi University, or NCCU, and we're going to see how it's navigating Taiwan's pretty rapidly changing educational world. We're going to use that exact same data-driven approach we used for NTU to see what's really going on. And, as we're about to find out, the story the numbers are telling us here is, well, it's pretty fascinating. And right off the bat, the data reveals a really stark trend. Look at this. While NTU's admission difficulty has stayed pretty stable, NCCU's has seen a big change. The average national rank of an applicant who gets in has gone from around 5,000 to over 8,800. So that competitive gap between these two top universities, it is definitely getting wider. So to really get what's driving this, we're going to break it all down into 5 parts. First, we'll talk about how we actually measure popularity. Then we'll sort MCVU's departments into 3 tiers. After that, we'll look at who's rising and who's falling, dig into the big structural shifts causing all this, and finally talk about the challenge NCVU is facing.
Okay, before we jump into the departments themselves, it's absolutely crucial that we're all on the same page about the metric we're using to compare them.
We call it the popularity index. And it's designed specifically to give a much more balanced and, frankly, a more accurate view of how appealing a department is than just looking at entrance scores by themselves. So how does it work? Well, it combines 2 key ingredients. First, you've got the applicant ranking. This tells us just how competitive the students are who are even able to apply. The lower the number, the tougher it is. But then, and this is key, we look at the application rate. This shows us how many of those super qualified students actually decide to apply. By balancing both of these, we get a way clearer picture of real student demand.
All right, with that out of the way, let's put this index to work. We've gone ahead and grouped NCCU's departments into 3 pretty distinct tiers, so we can see exactly how they stack up against their rivals over at NTU.
So, this top tier, Tier 1, includes the departments that are still major players on the national stage. We're talking about NCCU's traditional powerhouses, law, political science, and of course the incredibly unique diplomacy department, which NTU doesn't even have a direct equivalent for. So here's the takeaway. While NCCU's law school is still a fantastic choice, you can see it's fallen quite a bit behind NTU in terms of popularity. But its deep expertise in political science and especially diplomacy, that remains a core strength. And for a lot of students, it's something they just can't get anywhere else. Now, let's move on to the second tier. And this is where we see something really critical happening. This tier covers NCCU's traditional stronghold, its world-famous business programs. It also includes a lot of its key social science departments. The data here is just crystal clear. NCCU's business school, which is still incredibly prestigious, is consistently losing the most competitive students to NTU, and it's happening across every single major field, from finance to accounting. This isn't just a small gap, this is a structural weakening of what has always been NCCU's primary brand identity. And finally, let's take a look at the third tier. This includes that wide range of language and humanities departments that NCCU has been known for, forever. And this is where the challenge really comes into focus. When you compare them head-to-head in a field like foreign languages, you can see that N2's programs are just vastly more popular. I mean, look at this. N2's foreign languages department is more than 3 times as popular as NCCU's English department, according to our index. That's a huge difference. So what's going on here? There are really 2 major forces at play. First, the very top humanities students are all starting to concentrate at the single most elite institution, and that's NTU. And second, the incredible rise of AI translation tools is fundamentally challenging the whole value proposition of getting a language degree. This is really eroding what used to be a cornerstone of NCCU's reputation. Okay, so those are the snapshots, but you know what's even more revealing? The momentum. Who's actually gaining ground and who's losing it? That tells an even bigger story. When we look at how popularity has changed over the last few years, a really clear divide emerges. You've got a few key departments that are on the rise, like the brand new Innovation College. But at the same time, a whole bunch of NCCU's traditional core departments, English, public administration, most of the business school, they're all trending downward.
So why are some rising? Well, it's tied directly to what's happening in the world right now. The Innovation College is perfectly positioned for the demand for tech and interdisciplinary skills. Diplomacy and political science are becoming more and more relevant as geopolitical tensions rise. And even within languages, you see growth in Southeast Asian programs, which is being driven by all the economic shifts in the region. Meanwhile, the departments that are falling are getting hit by those two major forces we've been talking about. First, you have that consolidation of top talent in business and law, all flocking to NTU. And second, you've got the huge disruption from AI, which is hitting the European language departments like English, German, and French particularly hard. So, if we zoom out for a second, all these little individual trends, they point to two powerful overarching shifts that are basically reshaping NCCU's entire position in Taiwan's higher education landscape.
The first force is something we can call the top-tier concentration effect. Basically, in flagship fields like law and business, the absolute best students are increasingly all going to one single dominant institution. In this case, that's NTU. And that just squeezes out everyone else, even a university as prestigious as NCCU.
The second major force is the erosion of NCCU's traditional advantages. Its core strengths, the things it was always famous for, business and foreign languages, are being fundamentally challenged by the new realities of the AI era and big shifts in what the industry is looking for.
And all of this culminates in a really significant challenge for the university. I mean, this is a moment of transition that's probably going to define its identity for decades to come. This quote from the analysis we're using just sums it all up perfectly. NCCU is in transition. Its old advantages in commerce and languages are fading under technological and market pressure, while its unique strengths in diplomacy, politics, and these new innovative programs are becoming the critical pillars for its future. And that leaves us with a really critical question, and not just for NCCU, but for traditional universities everywhere. In an age where AI is completely redefining the value of knowledge and skills, how should a university that's built on a legacy of humanities and social sciences carve out its future? That's all for this explainer. Thanks for watching.